All right, let's talk about this. Hi, and welcome back to Rediscovering RC, my personal journey as I venture back into the world of RC and RC racing after an almost 20-year hiatus. I'm your host, Julio, and if you've been following Serpent news lately, then you know that a lot has been going on. So first off, as you saw, a couple of weeks ago, really about a month ago, Serpent announced that they were coming out with a successor to the 750 Natrix, and that is the 750 Natrix Evo Edition. And really, this car is an upgrade to the existing platform, but there were so many changes made that it really, to upgrade the existing platform was kind of like crazy. So given that I haven't really built the car yet, or I haven't even touched it, it was still brand new in the box, I made the difficult call and I said, you know what, the old car was about 2 years old now as the time of this filming, and with the release of this new car, so I said, let me bite the bullet. My old car is up for sale and I've got a couple of offers going out that I'm waiting to hear back from prospective buyers, so it pretty much pays for itself. I could have gone the route to go ahead and try to upgrade the existing car, which is possible. However, the parts list was extensive. I mean, I'll probably put in some images here up top while I talk about it. But there's really a lot of changes in this car that are kind of like revolutionary as opposed to just evolutionary. So if you follow Serpent, then you know that there's been a lot of changes in particular made to the 40th anniversary edition of the 989 Viper, which is the 8th scale version of their Nitro entry and into the hobby. And really there were a lot of things that were done there. There's things that Serpent has experimented before and are bringing back, and particularly a third dampener for the front and rear suspensions to separate the heave from the roll of the car. So in theory, what you can do is you can put a shock basically without the spring, so it just acts as a damper to kind of put additional dampening on the up and down motion of the chassis while it's running around the track. You can also put springs on there to put in theory, you can do things like, for example, put a stiffer spring to control that heave while putting a softer spring to control the roll. So what that'll do is it'll give you a little more roll in the turns, which in theory gives you more grip. But if you have bumpy surfaces or anything like that, or soft, depending on what you want to do, it allows you to adjust for just the overall behavior of the car while it's driving outside of the turns. So that's something that's very interesting, and that's actually coming to the 750 as well. There were a lot of changes. They've upgraded the two-speed assembly on this car from the one that the 750 traditionally had to the same two-speed assembly that's now in the 989. So that's another major change for this car. A lot of changes that allow you to manage weight better. So the actual chassis is different on this car as opposed to the old car. So in a lot of ways, I mean, this car is going to have a lot of things that are probably going to be useful in the track as far as tuning and being able to adjust the weight. You're going to have more control now as to where to put that weight, because now not only do you have the weight that goes underneath the main chassis, but they've taken an approach rather than having that aluminum slide where you can adjust the weight. They've actually replaced that with a carbon piece, just like on the 989. So again, a lot more management for fine-tuning and adjusting the weight on this car, and that's one of the reasons why I made the decision to go ahead and get this car over the other. If you've also been keeping track, then Serpent also recently announced that there's a successor to the X20, which is the X20 21 edition. This again makes a lot of changes. Now, it's not so severe, however, they did make fundamental changes to the chassis. There's a couple of additional holes on the bottom of the chassis that do not appear on this car. So there's a gap here that's filled in with a hole now, and there's a gap here which is now filled in with a hole. In addition, they've made a couple of other fundamental changes. For example, the medius mount is also slightly revised for the 21 edition of the car. But the only things that are the same are basically the suspension arms are the same. The steering rack is the same. They've even changed the mount. The battery holder is slightly different. This in the rear is the same. The cutouts underneath here, underneath the diffs, are different, okay, for the 21 edition. So again, extensive changes that look like they're going to make upgrading this car difficult. I'm not going to say impossible, because, for example, one of the things that they've changed is that they've made small changes. They've got a whole new adjustable front hub assembly, which from what I've seen should be adaptable onto this car. They have, let me see what else running through. The front bumper assembly, the jury's still out on that. But if this part is the same, then I think the front bumper assembly will carry over, which is even better, because this one's, I said it in my build video that, this bumper is a little bit flimsy. And some third parties have resorted to like 3D printing braces that go up against the front bulkhead. And that's exactly what Serpent has done with the X20 in this case. They've got a new plastic piece that replaces this carbon one that nestles in right into the curve that's built into this bulkhead. So you're going to have a lot more support against frontal impacts. The bumper is a little bit bigger as well. So again, something to absorb the frontal impacts. Other small changes that they've made is that in the shocks underneath, I put these as part of my build. However, they're removing the spacers altogether on the bottom on this car. Now it's going to change the angle of the shock a little bit, but more importantly, when they made that change, they also changed the length of the grub screw, which is, again, the issue that I had when trying to tighten the shocks on the bottom here in front, and the reason why I had to put these spacers in. So again, they're getting rid of it, but the actual grub screw that goes into the arm is 4 millimeters shorter. So that'll give plenty of leeway there to be able to tighten this with no problem and not have any issues. So aside from that, what I think I'm going to do is, rather than try to buy the new car, I will probably try just getting some of the parts. For example, the adjustable front hub is going to give you additional roll centers. These plates that hold the upper arms are slightly different in the back. I thought that it was on all four, but the ones in the front are the same. They've changed them in the rear to where these carriers for the pins run a little bit higher, and that changes the roll center, which team drivers found to be very favorable as well. So again, overall, I'll probably make little upgrades to this car and see how that is, and later on, once I get going or whatever, then I guess I'll make the decision, and I guess, of course, based on budget, as to whether I fully upgrade to the 21 car or not. But from what I see so far, I think we can probably apply some upgrades to this car and still have a decent running platform. Not that this is bad to begin with anyways, because I've seen some drivers in the the Facebook forums that have been doing really well with this car. So we'll see. If anything, like I said, adjustability in terms of fine-tuning and weight management is going to be key. And that's really one area where the 21 edition has focused, is that they've given you more options on where to put weight on the car for balancing. For example, there are some new options on the arms that you can place. In addition to the X-brace that I have on my car now, they're going to have a full plate that you can install in that place that in theory will make the arms even stiffer. And they also have brass weights that you'll be able to put in that plate in place as well to weigh down. And I think that will probably be essential on a carpet to get that low center of gravity, because it literally is barely higher than the chassis itself. So that'll be interesting. Other changes that they've made is that they've gone to a quasi-lateral top plate, which, because they've made slight changes in terms of where that mounts, that may be a little bit different on this car as opposed to the 21 edition. So we'll have to see if those adapt as well. But I know that a lot of drivers out in the wild, they've been having a lot of success by putting a rear standoff post back here, because there are some holes that you can tap into on the top here, and that gives enough stiffness in the chassis in the rear that it really lets the car rotate through the turns. So again, I think this car is still viable, and that's why I'm not in a rush to try to upgrade this at all. But it does present something that I wanted to discuss in this is, rapid development is always a good thing, but how much is too much? Serpent is one of those companies that they're always innovating, they're always making changes to the car and making revisions. And in the case of the 750, like I said, I would say that it was probably overdue, because the base car itself was 2 years old. So, but with this car came out, I believe it was in, I want to say December, January of last year, this year. So this car hasn't even been out on the market for a year, and they're already replacing it. So with the name 21 edition, I'm not sure if they're looking to get into that trend where they're going to update this car. But personally, I would have liked it if the car had been more of an evolution to where they could have provided an update kit to this. But again, the changes were so extreme. Like I said, chassis, top plate, even the battery holders were slightly revised. They changed really a couple of things that can be upgraded. They've gone to now ball bearing assisted drive shafts, both front and rear, which again adds to the cost of the car. So I don't think that's a necessary upgrade. Something that I do think is viable that they also changed is in the front. Rather than having this aluminum spool, they've gone with a composite spool. So again, they've changed that. So you might have to just go to the ball bearing assembly, because the out drives were made to hold those ball bearings in place, which I think are a little bit wider than even the blades that are installed on this car. So we'll have to see how that goes. But again, I think I'm going to go little by little and see what I can upgrade on this car before I make a decision later, which will be later on, because I don't want to be just spending money on a new car. But again, we'll see on that. So overall, again, it's a double-edged sword. You'd like to see a manufacturer constantly in that R&D in terms of evolving the car throughout time. But as people that are in the hobby, invested in the hobby, not many people have the money to keep investing in and moving forward. So I really do hope that Serpent kind of like, evolving the car is great, but doing so in a way that you don't make the people that just bought into your this new philosophy behind. You don't want to leave them behind, because it's, again, you're only going to upset them, especially somebody that might have bought the X20 maybe 2 months ago when there wasn't even an inkling that there was going to be an update to this car so soon. So again, it's just one of those things. My decision might have been easier if I hadn't built this kit, but since I already built this kit, I'm already vested. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this car out and get it on the track and see what I can upgrade. So what do you think? I'd like to hear your comments. Is it is over evolving a car detrimental to the people that have put their money down and invested in your vision? Is it a good thing? Should it be done slightly different to where the current car can be upgraded until they go to a total redesign? Like I said, I don't think that this car is a total redesign, but they did change some elements that kind of makes it difficult to easily upgrade. So anyways, I would love to hear your comments. Please do me a favor, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Any and all feedback will do a world of good to helping me deliver the kind of content that you like to see. And if you're new to this channel, please smack that like button. I would really appreciate it. I am on Instagram, so please check the link below. You might see every once in a while some sneak peeks at upcoming episodes, or just random posts that I'll put from time to time to just talk about the industry or the race teams that I'm involved with in general. So that'll do it for today's episode. Again, I'm your host Julio, and until next time, take care.